One of the things that probably won't be changing in Oblivion Remastered's upcoming Switch 2 release is the difficulty system, which many players say is broken. In this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about the last difficulty update that Oblivion Remastered received, and survival tips for the hardest difficulties. So with the addition of a new difficulty level in 2 separate difficulty bands that you can adjust, you essentially have 36 different difficulty setting possibilities here now. For casual players, and I think the vast majority of people, I think a really fun and challenging experience can be achieved by leaving the player damage setting on Adept and tweaking the enemy damage setting to Journeyman. Going Journeyman or above on the player damage difficulty scale, I think starts to constrain build options significantly, and I think it really starts to force players into Magicka-oriented builds, which some people might simply not enjoy. Now, if you do want to try your luck with the hardest difficulties, here's a few survival tips that I recommend. So starting with the basics, picking the right majors, race, and sign becomes essential on the hardest difficulties. Generally speaking, Magicka-oriented builds will tend to outperform others. Some of the best sign picks in my opinion include the Lord, which immediately gives you a 15% boost to shield and 15% boost to Magicka resistance, which can be very helpful in keeping you alive, especially early in the game when you have a very low health pool. The Lady is usually a very good pick as well, as it's going to give you an early boost to endurance points and to willpower. Endurance is going to help you with your health, and willpower is going to help you with magic sustainability and regeneration. The Mage can be a decent pick as well, given that you'll have a 50-point boost to Magicka, and the Atronach can be quite attractive as well. The problem with the Atronach is that there's no Magicka regeneration, so sustainability becomes a pretty big challenge, and if you're going to pick this, you're just going to want to make sure you have a pretty good grasp on how you can keep your Magicka level sustained through potions, Welkian stones, and other things. In terms of race, the Breton is oftentimes a very solid pick for many different builds. Off the bat, they're going to get a 50% resistance to Magicka boost, which is going to help a lot when fighting magic dealing enemies. Health and speed is a big downside for them early on, but by the end game, they're very, very powerful. Now moving on to more specific majors, Conjuration and Illusion are quite powerful. The general idea here is that any summons or friends that you obtain through crowd control spells will continue to do damage that is completely unaffected by the difficulty multiplier. So as a player, a sword swing that used to do 12 damage on Adept is going to do 2 damage on Master. Now if you crowd control a bandit that does 10 points of damage on Adept difficulty, that bandit is still going to do 10 points of damage on Master difficulty when hitting your enemy. So the moment you pick Conjuration as a major, you're going to get the ability to summon creatures that can fight along your side. Similarly, if you pick Illusion as a major, you're going to have early access to spells that do crowd control, so they'll allow you to command humanoids, so bandits, mages, and other types of human enemies, or you're going to have the ability to command creatures as well, so it's very powerful. Eventually, Illusion is your ticket to paralyze enemies, go invisible, so overall it's just a very flexible skill tree that's going to provide you a ton of options in terms of your defensive and offensive strategies. Destruction and Alchemy are 2 other major skills that you're probably not going to want to skip. Destruction arguably has the single most powerful magic effect in the whole game. At level 50 Destruction, you're going to unlock the weakness to magic spell effect. And so by combining weakness to magic with other effects, like weakness to fire or weakness to poison, you can inflict enemies with weakness effects that reach into the thousands. Now the reason that matters is if you inflict an enemy with 900% weakness to fire and 900% weakness to magic at the same time, a 5-point fireball cast at that enemy would do 500 points of damage. Now the problem with spells or magic damage from weapon enchantments is that those 500 points would actually be about 83 points of damage on Master difficulty, but this is still a really good way of dealing big amounts of damage on an enemy without having to hit them 100 different times. This concept is very much the same reason that I recommend using poison damage in Alchemy, but there's actually a massive advantage that poison damage has over regular magic. Unlike magic damage, poison damage is not reduced by the Master damage multiplier. So if you have an enemy with 900% weakness to poison, 900% weakness to magic, and you inflict an arrow that has 5 points of magic damage per second, that arrow is going to do 500 points of poison damage per second. So if that poison has a 10-second duration, that's going to be 5,000 points of damage in 10 seconds. Beyond the massive amounts of damage that you can do with poison, alchemy is also your ticket to getting poisons for paralysis effects on enemies. If you end up not picking illusion as a major, you can use it to silence enemies, to temporarily prevent them from casting spells. You can create potions to restore health, magicka, stamina, invisibility, shield, and just about any other in-game effect that you can think of. In terms of tips for survivability, obviously with enemies hitting you a lot harder on the more difficult difficulties, it's important to always keep an eye on your shield rating and your magical resistance rating. Shield rating will essentially negate up to 85% of your incoming physical damage, and you can increase this through armor, shield spells from the Alterations Pool of Magic, shield potions, which you can create by combining easy ingredients to find like potatoes and tomatoes. Investing points into endurance when you level up is always a good idea as well, as each point of endurance is going to help you scale up your health each time you level up. Early in game, when your health pool is around 100, it can be pretty easy to get one-shot by a stronger enemy, so having a bigger pool of health is simply going to increase your durability in a fight. Now, magic damage works a little bit differently. There's 4 possible effects that can be at play here: spell reflection, spell absorption, resistance to elements like fire, shock, and ice, and resistance to magic. So if an enemy fireball is cast at you, your reflect spell percentage acts as a probability for the entire spell to reflect back to the enemy that cast it. So if that reflection is successful, your enemy is going to take the damage and the chain stops there. But if the spell goes through, then spell absorption is going to be the next thing that kicks into play. It's the same thing here. You have a probability for you to absorb the spell and replenish your magic. So recall, this is one of the effects you can get if you pick the Atronach Stone early in the game. You have a 50% chance for spell absorption. But if the spell breaks through this as well, then the final damage you're going to receive is going to come down to your magic resistance and your elemental resistance together. Because these categories multiply to calculate the final damage number, which is the same thing we were looking at earlier when I was stacking damages, then it follows that achieving 100% resistance in either magic or the specific element is going to reduce the entire incoming damage to 0. To get the strongest gear and enchantments, Black Soul Gems are extremely valuable early in game, as they will allow you to create some of the strongest enchantments on weapons and armor. Black Soul Gems are equally as powerful as Grand Soul Gems, but the difference is that they're going to be a lot easier to create, to fill with Grand Souls, so it's just going to allow you to create strong gear a lot easier. In order to make a Black Soul Gem, you're going to need an empty Grand Soul Gem. You're going to need to unlock the Soul Trap spell, which requires Mysticism level 25, and then you're going to need access to a Necromancer altar, which you can find 4 different ones at these locations. To create them, you just need to pop an empty Grand Soul Gem into the altar, or multiple ones if you have more than one. Wait for the Shade of the Revenant, which happens every 8 in-game days, starting from day 1. And then you cast the Soul Trap spell, and you should be good. Linked in the description is my Black Soul Gem guide, which gets a little bit more into the weeds of this. Later in the game, if you want to make even stronger enchantments, you can do so through Sigil Stones, which are available at Oblivion Gates. Now, the effect you get is random, but the key thing to note here is that the higher your level, the stronger the enchantment you're going to get. So if you get one with the Resist Magic effect, which is only available as a Sigil Stone effect, getting it at level 1 would increase magic resistance by 5 points. But at level 17 and above, the effect you would get from the strongest version of the stone would be 20 points of magic resistance. So that does provide a bit of an incentive to hold off on closing Oblivion Gates until later on. But like I said, the effects are entirely random, so you may not necessarily get the effects you want right away, unless you save and load before each Sigil Stone until you get your desired effect. The last tip is to focus on making money early. Early money is going to get you earlier access to spells, enchantments, give you the ability to train specific skills that fit your build sooner, and lots more. Roughly 6,000 gold is what you're going to need to get early access to a spellmaking altar and enchantment altar at Frostcrag Spire near the mountains in Bruma. Once you unlock spellmaking and the weapon enchantment altar, you can pick up some Grand Soul Gems at the Arcane University lobby in Coral Mages Guild. And if you need any help getting money easier, check out my money guide, which explains some of the early game strategies you can follow to easily unlock over 10,000 gold early in the game. I hope you found the video helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below.